but what has been kind of hidden is the gay casting couch. You know, the day I arrived in Hollywood, they told me when I was offered the job at Warner Brothers that you need to know this town is run by a homosexual mafia, and I believe.
Oh my gosh! Don't say that. We got to wrap it up. No, be careful with what you say on Infowars. Even here, we don't want them coming after us. Thank you.
So, note to the editors, you know that thing we did with Scott Gottlieb? Could we put a teaser at the beginning? Put this as the teaser.
And the COVID vaccine, the CDC is now saying that there has been enough cases of people who have had the vaccine, received the vaccine, and then suffered a stroke. The agency will now be investigating any potential links between the shots and the strokes in some of those patients.
Okay, no big deal. We don't know what it is. So put that, can you put that at the front, like start the video with that, and then, you know what I'm saying. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. So this guy, Owen Jones, saw an interview with Joe Biden, and he's convinced that Joe Biden will go down in history as a monster, and Joe Biden kind of admits here that he's complicit in war crimes. Watch this.
Joe Biden has admitted that Israel has committed grave war crimes. Not an exaggeration. This clip I'm going to show you should be treated for what it is. It is a confession of complicity in genocide. Take a listen.
When I went to Israel, immediately after their attack by Hamas, 8 days later, whatever it was, and I told them we were going to help. And I said, but Bibi, I said, you can't be carpet bombing these communities. And he said to me, well, you did it. You carpet bomb, not his exact words, but you carpet bomb Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war. I said, but that's why we came up with the UN. New deals by which what we would do relative to civilians and military.
So that's also when we came up with the Geneva Conventions. So we didn't do that stuff. So I've had people who are pro genociding and slaughtering women and children in Gaza because I've had people say that. They say that to me. Well, look what we did to Dresden. Look, we dropped a nuclear bomb to end that war. I'm like, yeah, and then, we then did the Geneva Convention after that, so we don't do shit like that anymore.
Yeah, Kid Rock, you met Kid Rock is what you're saying?
No, I didn't know he said that.
Nagasaki, Hiroshima. That's what he blathered on Rogan. Remember that? The Dresden thing.
The Dresden thing. Immediately after October 7th, they were saying Dresden to me. And I'm like, what? So a talking point went out. It went out. And the people who are Zionists, and they just started repeating. So it's okay to literally put a bullet in the head of a baby because they've been doing that.
Well, guess what? Biden's not mentioning that the Geneva Convention could go fuck itself because we passed a law that a terrorist is not a legal combatant, so you could do whatever you want to them.
That's right.
So we got rid of the very idea that before they even did, like, I'll bet Bibi said that too, but he's not mentioning it.
So here he's got more to say. So there's Joe Biden admitting that he's complicit. He knows that what they're doing is illegal. He knows that what they're doing is a war crime. That's what he just admitted to. Hey, you can't be carpet bombing women and children. And then they bring up Dresden, and he goes, yeah, but we all decided we ain't going to do that after World War II anymore. And to compare Hamas to the fighting power of the Nazi regime in Germany that had invaded country after country and took them over, to compare Hamas to that, to that fighting machine is just, a joke. It's laughable.
Wait, and also, was America secretly funding the Nazis the whole time? Oh,
exactly.
They were. I'm sorry, they were. I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot Rockefeller and the Bushes were doing that. Pretty much the same thing.
So he was comparing 21st century war tactics, battle tactics, with World War II.
Well, what he was really doing is he was going after me for saying you can't indiscriminately bomb civilian areas, even if the bad guys are there. Even if the bad guys are there, you can't take out 2, 10, 12, 1,500 people, innocent people, in order to get the one bad guy.
Yeah, so Joe Biden knows what they're doing is wrong. He's telling you right now, you can't do that. That even so, if there's one bad guy, you can't go slaughter 2,000 innocent people to get the one bad guy. You can't bomb a neighborhood. Just like that's why bank robbers take hostages. They just don't blow up the bank. That's the whole point of this. And he's telling you right now, even as demented as he is, he knows that's wrong. Even with under the rules of war, he knows that's wrong.
And he made the legitimate argument. His perspective said, look, these are the guys that kill my people. These are the guys that are all over in these tunnels. Nobody had any idea the miles of tunnels are down there. It's amazing what they built. And they're sometimes 200 feet under the ground. Only way to get to them is take out the places where they were.
Or maybe stop funding them. Because that's what Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party and the Israeli government was doing.
Is it amazing that you gave them money to make tunnels, which they then did?
Which they then did?
Is that amazing?
Under which they got to the tunnels. And so that's the first time I had the discussion about bombing civilian areas was when I went over after the 9/11, after the massacre.
October 7th.
So on that first trip, 10, 11 days after October 7th, you already raised the issues of how to get to a ceasefire.
Well, not a ceasefire, how to prevent innocent death.
Yes.
And then I pushed really, really hard for more humanitarian aid to go in.
When I studied history at university, they taught us how to approach source material like this from a particular time. And when you read back at the interventions of a political leader, whether it's a speech, an interview, something they wrote publicly or privately, what you're supposed to do is contextualize it. And that is not to simply take their words at face value, but to understand the purpose and real meaning. In this case, why is Joe Biden, the 46th president of the United States, on the very eve of his presidency ending, publicly declaring that he had told the leader of a foreign state he has armed to the teeth for 15 months to stop carpet bombing civilians at the beginning of what was and has been an incessant genocidal onslaught? And the answer is, Biden thinks this will help his place in history. He knows history is set to return a damning indictment.
So why is Biden saying all this garbage now? Well, as he points out, it's because he knows history is not going to look kindly on him. And so he's trying to get out in front of that. And he's got more to say. This is good.
Of his time in the White House. One poll for PBS News finds that over a third of Americans believe he will go down in the history books as one of the worst presidents ever, compared to 5% who say one of the best. That places him right down at the bottom of the league of US presidents, just above Richard Nixon and below George W. Bush.
So that's what's happening here. And Lawrence O'Donnell is a willing tool of empire and the establishment and the war machine and big pharma and all the rest. He's a fake tough guy, and he's just a tool of the oligarchy. That's why he's got that job at MSNBC. If he actually told you the truth about the Ukraine war or the Gaza war or Joe Biden or COVID or he would be fired immediately, like they fired Mehdi Hassan because he told all the other lies, but he wouldn't tell the lie about Gaza.
What? Why do you call him fake tough guy? Like, was he tough in
because
some way?
he did a thing where he challenged Donald Trump to a fight. He's like, come here. He goes, he put his chin out. I'm right here. Come on, take a shot at me. Yeah.
He thinks this clip will lead historians to believe that he actually did remonstrate with Benjamin Netanyahu. He did implore him to stop unleashing barbaric, indiscriminate firepower against the innocent people of Gaza. Well, this clip is damning. It is, in actual fact, a confession. If Joe Biden ever ends up, or if he did end up at the International Criminal Court, this clip alone would be sufficient to find him guilty of complicity.
He's right. He's right.
So he thinks that this is his way to smooth over all the crimes he's complicit in. But as Owen Jones points out, no, this is actually proof that he's complicit because he knew from the start what they were doing was against the Geneva Conventions, against the rules of war, all that. There were war crimes.
Why are we pretending like we can't control Israel when we're giving him the money to do this?
That's right.
I love this pretend. There's nothing I could do.
And so
you could stop giving him money.
So he's pointing out that at the beginning, Joe Biden knew that and then continued to fund them. He continued to send billions and billions and billions and in fact, $18 billion worth of bombs to do that to these people. And even, so is there any more of this I want to play?
War crimes, because it proves what should be obvious, that Joe Biden knew exactly what the Israeli state was doing from the very beginning. Now, Israel has been the biggest recipient of military aid of any foreign state in the post-war era, but since the 7th of October 2023, that surged to nearly $18 billion worth since then, which is obviously a vast sum of money. The US sent thousands, for example, of £2,000 bombs to Israel since October 7th, despite knowing full well that they were slaughtering civilians en masse. The New York Times, which has had a dire record of reporting this horror, made clear in December 2023 that Israel was dropping £2,000 bombs on areas that Israel told civilians to flee to. On October...
So Israel tells civilians, you better go over here to this refugee camp because we're going to bomb your neighborhood. And then they bomb the refugee camp. And even Wolf Blitzer, who is an AIPAC tool, I think he literally worked for AIPAC. Even he was shocked to find out that they were doing this, that they would tell people to leave their homes, go to a refugee camp because we're going to bomb your home. And then they would bomb the refugee camp. Watch it. Here's Wolf Blitzer talking about it.
Yes, I can.
So these are pictures of a refugee camp where they dropped one of those 2,000-pound bombs. And Wolf Blitzer's like, wait a minute. You knew that you were dropping a bomb on women and children in a refugee camp, and you did it anyway to get one guy. Watch this.
We were focused again on our target, a senior commander, Wolf, and we'll be updating you with more data as the hour moves ahead.
But even if that Hamas commander was there amidst all those Palestinian refugees who are in that Jabalia refugee camp, Israel still went ahead and dropped a bomb there, attempting to kill this Hamas commander, knowing that a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children, presumably would be killed. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yes.
That's not what you're hearing, Wolf. We're focused on this commander, again, who you'll get more data who this man was. Killed many Israelis. We're doing everything we can. It's a very complicated battle space. There could be infrastructure there. There could be tunnels there. We're still looking into it, and we'll give you more data as the hour moves ahead.
But you know that there are a lot of refugees, a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children in that refugee camp as well, right?
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf.
It's a tragedy of war.
As you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
I'm just trying to get a little bit more information. You knew there were civilians there. You knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees, but you decided to still drop a bomb on that refugee camp, attempting to kill the Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?
No.
I can't confirm yet. I'll be more updated. Yes, we know that he was killed. About the civilians there, we're doing everything we can to minimize. I'll say it again. Sadly, they are hiding themselves within civilian population.
They're doing everything. Yeah, we dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on a refugee camp, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that those civilians aren't dead. Well, what are you doing? Nothing. We're dropping bombs on them. That seems like the opposite of doing everything you can. Yeah, it is. Even Wolf Blitzer, he can't wait a minute. So you're just dropping bombs on refugee camps? Yep, that's what we're doing. Even though you know there's women and children and refugees there, and you told them to go, yep, that's how we're doing this one.
Yeah, I showed it on Rogan. And in my favorite part, he goes, well, did you get the guy? And he goes, I can't confirm that.
Can't confirm that.
We don't know if we got the guy.
We even know if they got the guy. But but this is what they did. They dropped a bomb there. That's what they did. And here they are. Here's Michael, this guy. One of the craziest developments of this war is that a talking point clearly went out for Israeli officials to bring up the Allied firebombing of Dresden, 100% deliberate incineration of civilians, populations for no military purpose, as a precedent for Israelis' tactics in Gaza. So since we committed this war crime in World War II, they're allowed to do this now. They're allowed to incinerate civilians and drop 2,000-pound bombs on them. And that's Joe Biden admitting that he knew they were doing this and continued to fund it, which that, as Owen Jones points out, that enough right there would be enough to get him convicted at the ICJ.
Jimmy, he has to fund it. He's being blackmailed. Again, why didn't he stop funding it? Because he can't. Anthony Blinken, because he can't. None of them can. Like, this is a simple fix. It's not complicated. You stop giving them money and then they can't do this. That's all you got to do. I'm not going to give you all this money you use for this if you don't cut that shit out. It couldn't be more simple, but what's making it complicated? Because they have stuff on these people.
Because they have blackmail on them.
Because that great Israel hero, Jeffrey Epstein.
That's right.
The James Bond of Israel.
You don't think the Mossad has a copy of Joe Biden's daughter's diary?
Oh, they probably got video of it.
That's right. So it doesn't.
Joe Biden wanted to be a whore, remember? So he probably would gladly do some evil thing and you videotape him doing it because he was so eager. He publicly said, I wanted to be a whore to corporations. And they said, not till you're older, kid. That's somebody that would do anything on camera for blackmail material.
That's right. And so this guy says that. He's like, it's okay because you guys did it. You guys did it. I won't. And here's another one. Here's the, who is this? She's the Israelis' ambassador to the United Kingdom. Here, she's going to say it.
And going back to your own history, when you fight Nazi Germany, you knew that there were many, many civilians got attacked from your attacks on German cities. Dresden was a symbol, but you attacked Hamburg, you attacked other cities, and altogether it was over 600,000 civilian Germans that got killed. And was it worth it in order to defeat Nazi Germany? And the answer was yes.
Yes.
No, it wasn't, you pig.
That's what she says.
It was just a crime they didn't have to do, as a matter of fact.
That turns out.
It was terror. They said it's to demoralize. It was specifically for the purpose of terrorizing the civilians.
Yes.
In their own words. It was a terror attack.
And the same thing with the nuclear bombs being dropped on Japan. They were ready to surrender. We did that as a warning to Russia.
Which worked really well because then they had those weapons within the.
Yeah.
It worked so well it scared them away from any ambitions.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots.
I've had people on panels at the Young Turks they're always pro-war. The Young Turks are always pro-war, and that was a big disappointment to me when I was there. They're for bombing Libya. They're for bombing Syria. They're for the Ukraine war. They're for every stupid war. They're for Afghanistan. They're for everything.
Yeah.
And they finally found a war they weren't for, which is Gaza. Finally. Yeah. Woof. And
so's Betty Boo-hoo from that other show.
But I had people say that the nuclear people on panels, senior members of the Young Turk staff, say that no, we had to drop the nuclear bombs on Japan because it saved lives. I'm not kidding.
Even Ben Shapiro has the presence of screwed up mind to go, well, it arguably saved millions of lives. He at least throws in arguably. Yeah, because he knows it did not do that. That's why he's throwing that in. He's doing a propaganda argument.
Well, the first propaganda when they dropped the first nuclear bomb was it saved 50,000 servicemen lives. And then a couple of years later, they just started saying 100,000, and then they just bumped it up to 1 million. And it's based on nothing. They just say it saved 1 million lives. They just say it based on nothing.
It's the same methodology as our life-saving vaccines for the coronavirus.
And now we know that Japan was ready to surrender. Anyway, all right, over to Steph.
All right, Jimmy, you want to go to Rumble now or one more story?
We could do one more.
Okay, we're going to do one more story, and then we're going to go to Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here we go. This is so fascinating. This came in today, one of our first super chats. Savage says, Fauci lost his security detail today because Trump revoked it.
They were spending like 20 grand a week or something.
It was off the chart.
It was crazy.
And in a BBC article, they say that Trump ends up saying, they made lots of money. They can pay for their own security.
Nice.
Right? And yeah, bitches. I was wondering if they were going to continue paying Fauci's security. What the hell? He was one of the highest paid government officials. And we were paying for his security.
He was the highest paid federal employee that I know of. He made more money than the president. That's what, right?
Yep. Why would that hero need protection for all his heroics? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But Fauci, everybody should know, he's hired his own private security team that will pay for himself. Yeah, he should pay for himself. Yeah, Trump said they all made a lot of money. They can hire their own security too. Yes. You know what? I just can't get over how much spending our government does on stuff that we never advocated for.
Well, why do you think all these people don't want you to have a say in anything? Because they live off it.
Yeah.
Who voted for Kamala besides federal employees?
Me.
No one.
I love her. I love Kamala. I think Trump's in California today.
Trump is in California today.
Right?
So I got to text my friend.
All right. Text your friend and I'll do some more reading. Here we go. JFK, RFK, MLK files will be out soon. Bet who? Vivas. Savage, Elon did a Roman salute because BB himself said so. Whoa! Vivas, you're back like many Larry Ellison dating a young CCP spy. Bawab. Bawab. You don't need to keep a conspiracy secret for it to succeed. You just need to be in charge of the investigation. The people are allowed to believe anything, but not to know or act on anything. Yeah, no kidding. Nice work there, BWAB.
That's right. And then you need to make it where everyone believes that the official explanation somehow is automatically real because it's the official explanation. Like you just do what the guy in the TV said. That feeling.
Yeah.
Like a wife who's being cheated on and refuses to see it because it might interfere with her life, you know, or Dottie Sandusky, that classic. They make you into that.
Dottie Sandusky that pretended her husband wasn't molesting children. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want my life to get hard.
Yeah.
Right? I want to just do my job and wash my dishes and I don't go in the basement. Jerry said that's where he gives freedom to boys.
That's why I stopped washing dishes. All right. Viva says CCP released the virus to undo Trump trade deal in 2019, to stop HK protest 2019, to steal the election, to eliminate white race and the Western civilization altogether. It's called 13579 plan. Miles Guo. Thank you for that.
Well, I
Vivas.
remember the 579 shops for ladies who were smaller. I remember those. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
Those went away.
Yeah.